There is that. I remember when I first bought my first ever set of linking rings, and I swear to you, I had been up at night thinking about how it worked. I'd seen them performed live, and my mate was called up onto stage, and he got given two rings that were linked, and the magician had his linked, and he said to my mate, he said, right, he said, 1, 2, open, and he's open, and my mate went dun dun dun, and then the magician went, hang on, and I just thought, I've just seen metal pass through metal. Like, he just went, dip, dip, dip. I'm like, fuck me. And honestly, it kept me awake. That's how I discovered Davenport's International Magic on Clerkenwell, Davenport's on Charing Cross Underground, Alan Allen's on Southampton Road. And when I finally saved up enough pocket money to buy a set, I get home and there's a fucking an inch long hole in one of the rings. And I thought, I've been sold the kids version. But no, that's obviously how they work. You can't put metal through metal. I thought it would be some kind of like mercury or a new metal that I didn't know existed that just fused if you got it at the right angle and all that. And that was, apart from the abuse, let's just put that to one side. That was my whole history of being into conjuring, is the letdown of how tricks are done. Because the magic, I've had magicians show me tricks, and I know pretty much all the sleights. I do. I can't do them all. I can do a fair few. I know most of the techniques. I know, I've read most of the Bibles. The Coin Bible, Modern Coin Magic by Bobo. I've read Expert Card Technique, which is the classic. I've read Harry Lorraine's Magic Book. I've read Tony Corinda's 13 Steps to Mentalism. I know all the Bibles. But so when I see a trick and I can't work it out, that's when I'm like, holy fuck, because I should know. And even when I can't work it out, now here's what still happens. So I'm fascinated when I can't work it out. So I start thinking, and then when I finally find out, it's always the same letdown. It's always something shit. Now, I'm making a video at the moment, a standalone, not a live stream, about the problem that Derren Brown is going through at the moment. I won't let the cat out of the bag at the moment, but Derren Brown's double bluff is that he uses he's a psychological illusionist. It's about suggestion and NLP and all that sort of stuff. And it ain't, right? It ain't. I don't think me saying that here is going to ruin his career or anything, especially since he's moved away from all that stuff. But this is what's weird about it. The double bluff is he tells you how he does his tricks. There's a very famous trick of Derren Brown. Let me know in the chat if you've seen it, where he gets a couple of top advertising agents to design, I told you about it the other day, a poster for a taxidermy company. And he has an envelope on the desk that he puts there before he tells them about it. They design the poster. He says, open the envelope, and he predicted pretty much the poster. And then he says to the audience, have a look at the cab journey these two blokes took. And as they've got a camera in the back of the taxi with them, their journey to the office where they do this design, all the way along the route, there's signs and symbols that are in the poster. So like subliminal messaging for the whole route to the office. And Derren Brown tells you that he says to him, if you knew what we had to do to make this trick work, it would blow your mind. That's not how it's done. Right? That's no way is that how it's done. There you go. A few people have seen it. 42's seen it. There you go. JP, Almac. Now, the real trick of Derren Brown is saying that's how it's done, because you think, fucking hell, the reveal. Now, that's the actual reveal. The reveal isn't when he says that his prediction is the same as them. The actual reveal is when he says, look at all that subliminal, messaging we gave them. No way is that how that trick's done. Now, this is why Derren Brown's in trouble. Because he made a documentary debunking psychics. And early on in his career, he used to get on stage and say, I'm not a psychic. And then he'd read minds and that, and he'd say, I'm a psychological, blah, blah, suggestion, blah, blah, NLP. And in his tricks on YouTube, in the comments, people are like, oh, did you notice the way he said, right, right? Four times he said right. And of course it was in the right hand. And you're like, yeah, he's told you that's how he does his tricks, but he doesn't. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because people get Derren Brown on their shows to interview him, and they think that that's how he does his tricks. So now, and Derren Brown is visibly, as you'll see in my video, visibly uncomfortable with being perceived as a bloke who's got these kind of mind-bending, suggestive techniques, because he's now become what he once debunked. And you'll see him, and he's all sort of awkward, going, "Oh, is it real?" And they're sort of like, "Yeah, but you can imagine people in advertising could use your kinds of ideas." And Derren Brown's sort of thinking, "No, because it's just a prop. It's a very old magic trick. I just pretend that I do it using psychology." And it's a really weird situation to end up in. Oh no, without a doubt, he's the best magician of the last 100 years. I'm not taking anything away from him, and I make that clear in the video. He's fantastic. But there is this weird thing that's happened where he's now, he doesn't do his tricks how he says he does them. That's why it's funny, because he's interviewed as if he is. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Now, listen. Oh my God, I used to drink with Faye Presto at Soho House. Hello, I'm Faye. Hi. Yeah. Right. Emma G's been up on stage with DB. He's a bender. What, Uri Keller? Good call, Martin. Good call. Right, so out of all those Bibles I read, I told you, Expert Card Technique, Ari Lorraine's magic book, 13 Steps to Mentalism, the Bible of Hypnotism, right? We all know what hypnotism is by a bloke called Osmond McGill. I think that's it. Something like that. Osmond McGill. And it's called The Stage Hypnotist's Encyclopedia, something like that. Right, now I bought that at a magic convention in Blackpool, and I paid about 90 quid for it. And it's you can get it on Amazon now, but this was a long time ago. And I'm thinking, I said to the magicians I was there with, who were professional magicians, I said, what book do I get to learn about hypnotism? And they said, you want Osmond McGill's Encyclopedia of Stage. That, everyone said that's the one. So I bought it, and that was like burning a hole in my bag. And when I got home, I was like, right, pint of tea. I was reading it, and I was thinking, fucking hell, man. And before I read it, I looked at all the chapters, and it was like, what was it? The wrist snap induction, the head tap induction, the hand clamp induction. I was thinking, fuck, I've seen all of these. The one where you go like that and you can't separate them. The one where you can't open your wrist. The one where you point at their hand and then sleep and all that. And I was thinking, whoa, this is going to be amazing. And then quite early on in the book, I realized that he's trying to explain what hypnotism is, right? And it was so contrived and so utterly convoluted. I just kept thinking, just get to the point. What are you talking about? And I suddenly realized he's not explaining to me what hypnotism is or what the hypnotic state is. He's kind of telling me what it isn't. And I started thinking, hang on a minute, this is back to the fucking linking rings. There's an inch long hole in the circle of reasoning regarding hypnosis. And I'll tell you now, hypnosis, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. This is what hypnosis is. Give someone a mask, they'll wear it. If they want to wear it, you can find out with a few very simple tests. When you see a stage hypnotist on telly and he's got 6 people sitting on chairs, right? If any of you have ever gone to see a stage hypnotist live, he doesn't start with those 6. He starts off with when you arrive at the venue, would you like to take part in this show? Put your name down here. So you've already filtered it down to people who want to be hypnotized. So then when the show starts, he gets all of them people who want to be hypnotized. And they know what kind of things happen. They're not going to be asked to stick swords through their neck. They're going to be asked to prat around the stage and, lose their memory and things like that. Then you do some very basic inductions with all of them. And when he goes, the more you try and release your hands, the tighter they get. And one bloke goes, oh no. And he goes, no problem, go and sit down. Keep filtering. And out of an audience of 1,000 people, you end up with the 6 people who've pretty much, without actually saying it, have said to you, I'll do anything. I'll do anything. I'll go along with anything you want. That happens at all hypnosis shows. You often don't see it when you're watching it on telly because it takes some of the magic out of it. And so then you've got these 6 people, and then you just go up to them and you do a little induction. You just sort of, look at the center of your, you lift this. It's called the wrist, I can't remember what the name of it is, but you lift up their hand like that, and then you say, look at the palm of your hand, look at the palm, and as they stare at it, then you just yank their wrist and then just go sleep. And of course they're going to, because they want to. And then they just relax. And they just relax. And they now know or assume that the audience is also assuming that they're hypnotized. They are hypnotized. Now they are hypnotized. But hypnosis isn't anything more than them being very suggestible, because they are anyway. That's how comes they were the ones that passed through all the filters. And then after that, you can just say, right, when I wake you up, I'll be invisible. You won't be able to see me. And then he says, and okay, and when I click my fingers, you're going to wake up, click, and they come around. And then the performer picks up a bottle or something and just goes like that past them, and they go, hang on a minute, what? Now the thing is, they can actually see the performer, but they're playing along, and that's it. And that's it. They're not lying, though. They're not lying. This is the weird thing. They're not lying because they've been given license. They've been given license to trust what the hypnotist says to them. And I realized when I got into this Osman McGill book that he was absolutely doing his best to not say this. And the fact is, how do you teach people how to hypnotize people without telling them that it's not an actual thing? It's quite amazing. Now, having said all that, that doesn't make me go, oh, what another magic letdown, because in a weird way it makes it even better, because humans become even more interesting because they're willing to just play this weird game of legitimation. They're on stage, there's a professional hypnotist, and any hypnotist will tell you it gets easier the more famous you get, because the more famous you are, the more valid your ability to hypnotize them is. When I first got that book by Osman McGill, I was trying to hypnotize my friends and family. None of them went for it, because they're like, nah, it's just Chris. I'm not buying this. No. When I started doing it to strangers out in boozers, and at Bar Italia I'd done it, I could do it. I was getting people, they couldn't open their hands. They were like, fucking hell. And I was like, yeah, the more you try, the tighter it gets, the harder it gets. It's fusing together. And they'll be like, yeah, I can't open them. And I'll go, and on the count of 3, when I click my fingers, they'll come open like a dream. 1, 2, 3. And they'll be like, fucking hell. And that's because I told them I was a stage hypnotist. And they went for it. Keys to the Kingdom says, is it attention seeking? Well, as humans, we're all attention seeking. So it is, yes. But no more or less than many other things we do as humans. One thing you'll notice, and again, they try not to say this in the book, people with a lower IQ tend to hypnotize easier. Also, introverts hypnotize easier because extroverts don't need a mask. Extroverts will fuck around on stage and do cartwheels and what have you anyway. But an introvert is trapped in their own silence. So give them an excuse to, and sleep. Okay, just listen to my voice. As you walk down those steps, you're getting tired. More relaxed, more relaxed, more relaxed. That's it. Listen to my voice. And your breathing is slow. You're relaxed. You're floating away. When I bring you round, you're going to think you're the most famous pop star in the world. And everyone's come here to hear you sing. And it's going to be amazing. This is going to be the best gig of your life. Now, to an introvert, that's gold dust. And so 1, 2, 3, and wake up. They know that the audience have heard that, and so they fucking run with it because you've given them a license to be a different person. And people like that license. How many people, think about this, how many people have you seen get shit-faced on one double gin? Because of the environment. And yet another night you've seen them do half a bottle of vodka around at your house and there was barely nothing. But in an environment where there's girls and boys and it's a bit sort of jolly and someone like you arrive and it's like cheers and they've had a couple of sips and suddenly they're pissed. They're acting drunk. Well, it's because you've done the same thing. You said, here's your mask. Here, there's a mask there. Now you're drinking. Now you're drinking in a bar. So, forget about how much you've had. You may as well be drunk. And I do it myself, and I've seen other people do it. I've gone to a boozer completely straight, well, as straight as I can be after all the damage. And I'll have a couple of sips and I'm sort of like, and I'm thinking, are you really anywhere near drunk? You seem to be. I'm not quite sure you've even had half a shot of vodka yet.